show here on the Mayo Media Network, presented by Prize Picks. I am at Moody, joined by DJ Mitchell to go through Tuesday, March 30th, NHL action. DJ, how are you doing on this wonderful, wonderful Tuesday?
Yeah, I mean, I had the roller coaster ride of another Buffalo Sabres hockey game to not watch because I just didn't want to. I can't do it to myself. And then as soon as I thought maybe I should turn it on, the Sabres turned it off themselves and blew a 3-0 lead. So to start the show, Matt, what I asked you before we started and we decided to wait was, with the Sabres being the clear-cut worst team in hockey, who is the second worst?
Like, who can we just dunk on? But that's like not us, because, you know, Meany and all his friends just spend every show just dunking on the Sabres. Like, Meany even tried to get our hopes up tonight. Meany was like, tonight's the night the Sabres get the win. And he looked like a genius for the first two periods. But yeah, Chris Meany, you have a lot to learn about these Buffalo Sabres, my friend.
I wish, and I really, really thought about it, putting money on the Flyers when they're down by 3. Like, I was like, do I do it? I'm like, no. This is like, they will definitely not come back and win if I put money on it. But man, it was like minus 800. I was like, ooh, yeah, like, so this could be fun. And no way, but
a real talk, it's Columbus, right?
I mean, like I think if you're not looking at points, like obviously point wise, they still have enough bank to not be the second worst, but like in reality, they are the second worst team in the NHL.
You cannot lose a weekend series convincingly to the Detroit Red Wings. Like
they are literally weekend at Bernie's this weekend when they got steamrolled by the Red Wings. Like, I watched some of the game on Saturday. Saturday, and they were getting blown out. The first period was a train wreck.
Yeah, it was so horrible.
We got him here tonight. I mean,
so like there's Ottawa, and of course, you know, Ottawa, they're plucky, but like, man, like it is some tough competition. I thought it would be Detroit, but you know, they look good enough this weekend where I think they escaped that designation for right now. So you know, maybe next show we'll just, maybe you can make fun of someone who's not the Buffalo Sabres meaning, but
it is a lot of badness at the bottom. I think, as far as like the team I'd like to play the most besides the Sabres, it's probably San Jose, because they have been so porous defensively. Like, it's every time that they're on a slate, it's worth considering putting like 4 guys against them. They have bad goaltending and they give up a million shots. So it's,
Martin Jones actually hasn't been that terrible this year, which is remarkable because the Sharks still aren't very good. But it's weird. It's weird.
My favorite stats is last thing, and then we should get down to it. But Sabres have 6 wins. How many of those wins are from Linus Ullmark? I think I actually may have sent this to you, so I don't know.
Is it 5? I thought Hutton got 1. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's 5 of the 6. Like, he missed over a month, and they just didn't win. It's so impressive. Like, I just am in awe of this Buffalo Sabres team, who have not won a regulation game in March since 2018. And I was trying to make like an interesting tweet about this, and I was like, kids will go to preschool that never seen the Sabres win a regulation game in March. And I'm like, I am stretching this to the nth degree. So I backed out, but
anyway, we do have to get over to the Tuesday action in front of us here. So before we do that, I do just want to mention Prize Picks. As you know, they are the title sponsor of the show. So make sure you head on over to prizepicks.com and sign up using promo code MMN, as in Mayo Media Network, when you sign up. It's super easy. All you do is you pick up to 5 players from, you know, you can say the NHL slate, but you can also do cross-sport entries from NBA or golf or anything else that's going on. They'll probably have a line for it. And so what you're doing is you have the players over unders fantasy points set. So for hockey, you get 3 points for a goal, 2 points for an assist, and a half point for a block and a shot on goal. And it's pretty simple. You just pick the over, the under for each of those players. And, you know, you just sort of watch the games and you sweat it along with the rest of us. One thing that was really funny on Monday's slate, me and the boys were talking about it. David Backes was an option for the Ducks. So really interested to see how he falls ass backwards into hitting his prop there. But, you know, just
unless if he has every shot for that Anaheim team, I think he's not quite there yet.
Yeah.
Like 10.
Yeah. So anyway, like there's just a lot of fun things you could do over on Prize Picks. So head on over there, use promo code MMM, And let's get down to this Tuesday slate. DJ, where do we start?
We're starting with Edmonton at Montreal. We have not seen the Canadiens in quite some time. They're coming back after a bit of a COVID pause. I guess we can't be 100% certain on the lineup, but they did run morning skate lines on Monday. They're playing a back-to-back Edmonton team. Edmonton is plus 123, and Montreal is minus 141 in their first game back. I think I may have kind of mentioned this before, but it does seem like most teams after a COVID break have played pretty bad. I don't know if that's really backed up by much, but
it's backed up by the Buffalo Sabres.
Maybe it's just the Sabres and the Flyers. I mean, like the Sabres and Flyers both like went on break and just stopped winning. Like it's literally Space Jam when like the Monstars steal all the energy and power from the other team. Like that's what happened. And the Sabres and Flyers are both now just a joke. But irregardless, just I think the first glance in this game, the first thing that's going to stand out is how cheap Montreal is on DraftKings. If you're making lineups, I mean, we have guys that are going to be like power play 1 at $3K. Suzuki, 4,600. There's so much value here against a back-to-back team that it's hard to overlook. I know we talked about it in pretty extensive length on the Morning Skate podcast, but do you want to start there? Just give me kind of what your thoughts are on this game from a DFS perspective, because I think it's going to be really highly owned with McDavid's and Pasternak's of the world.
Yeah, it's weird because of the DFS angle is almost kind of different from like my betting thoughts on it, because I really do think that Montreal in DFS is, I think you got to look there, like they're just so cheap. They're so good, for the salary, like they're so condensed without Tyler Toffoli that we're getting guys like, if you pour this back to last year and say Deneau, Tatar, and Gallagher will combine to be like less than 13,000 on DraftKings, like you would take that to the bank every time, especially when Deneau's getting power play time like he was, before their little COVID pause. So the Montreal side, I do think is really interesting, but man, McDavid at plus 123 playing, not exactly at the height of his powers against the Leafs, but like, it just doesn't feel like Montreal has the talent to even be in the same building as McDavid at this point. Montreal's struggled to score now for quite a while. They've not really scored with any sort of regularity, except for games against Vancouver, which of course, that's been a thing this year. So to me, this feels like I really like getting Edmonton despite being, road back to back, like whatever. I just like getting some plus money there. But it's kind of different from the DFS side of things, where I do think Montreal is really interesting as well.
Yeah, I think I slightly like the Edmonton just because they're not favored to win this game. I thought it'd be a lot closer to the middle. I do like the under a little bit, but I don't know if I like it enough to go crazy just because we have McDavid and Draisaitl in a game. It's really hard for me to just say like, oh, I'm going to go the under on this, because those guys are such special talents. I mean, McDavid in particular, that he can break a game wide open, score 2, assist on 2, and, absolutely crush you. And the over just hits because of how skilled he is. Other than that, though, I think that the prop bets are going to be interesting here. I mean, the one guy that I'm hoping I can get a prop line on is Petrie. Before everything went down, we talked a lot about how Montreal's power play runs through the defense, and I think it still will. And Toffoli isn't going to play. And Toffoli was one of the primary shot takers for this team, 5-on-5 and the power play. That wasn't a defenseman. So I think it really bodes well for Weber and Petrie. Petrie's just too cheap, I think, as well on DraftKings. So if you're stacking up Montreal, which I probably will have a bit of, I think he fits in really nicely. I'm hoping to get him over 2 or 2.5. I think that's probably going to be where he relies. Hopefully DraftKings has a prop, but if not, I'm sure FanDuel will have it. Other than that, I think Gallagher shot prop is also going to be interesting depending on where it lands, because if it's 3.5 and it's, plus 120 or more, I might really heavily consider it. But is there anything that you're interested in as far as props are concerned?
Yeah, I mean, player-wise, for me, just McDavid's definitely the guy. Like, he is just on such a sick run this season. Like 62 points in 35 games. I believe that's now 63 and 36. Like, just insane stuff out of McDavid to this point. 9.2 road back-to-back. I get it. But it's not even like the Monday slate where you had to decide between Matthews and McKinnon and McDavid. Like, now it's just McDavid, and then there's kind of like Bergeron at the top. So like DFS, it's a really easy sort of decision for me. And then just player props wise, McDavid's literally doing it all. He has 41 shots in his last 10 games, like just doing really, really exceptional stuff. So I'm very happy to take his player props whenever. And then Jesse Puljujärvi, talk about some condensed, usage. Chason was a scratch on Monday. If he's a scratch again, Puljujärvi's locked into that top power play job. James Neal should remain out as well, but we'll see. But like Puljujärvi is getting first dibs at that power play time, and he's just far too cheap across the industry for that. Playing on that line with Draisaitl and McDavid, where I just think you've got to take a stab at him. I get it; it doesn't always hit, even when McDavid and Draisaitl do. But he's just too cheap, and we know the sort of talent he is. So I'm pretty big on that. If you want one sort of interesting angle to look at this game, I'm just looking at some of the game props. The Oilers to win after being a goal or more behind is plus 410. You're telling me that Montreal goes up 1-0 in this game and Edmonton can't come back and win? Like, this season's been all about the comebacks. And you're telling me that, some of these cheap guys on Montreal can't get up early and that McDavid just can't storm on back. That to me seems like a pretty fun line to bet. I don't know. But it just seems like that's sort of been the MO of the Oilers, just to sort of let McDavid fly when they're, trailing, and sort of he just makes defenses look terrible. So I think that might be a fun angle to take here at some decently long odds.
I think the last little thing to cover is the hardest part about Montreal and DFS has been that there hasn't been any concentration of minutes, but there should be in this one. Enough guys should still be out. So Duran, Suzuki, Anderson, line 1, Tatar, Deneau, Gallagher, line 2. At either of those stacks, especially if we get some indication they correlate on the power play, are going to be, I think, really strong ways to maybe not differentiate enough, but 7 games late, you might want to get a little bit different, but definitely get cheap guys to go around the Stars. With that being said, are you ready to move over to New Jersey, Boston, the rematch?
Yeah, just one other thing, with regards to that bet, you're talking about the plus 410. The Canadians are terrible in overtime, and obviously the Oilers have McDavid in overtime. So that's even some more value there, I think. And also, if you're live betting this and this game goes to overtime, this is the spot where you're just jam in Edmonton as soon as they go to overtime, because they should be minus 300 at that point.
Okay.
But we can move on.
All right, to New Jersey at Boston. Obviously, if you watched or participated in gambling on this game on Sunday, you got Blackwood. And we talked about in the Morning Skate Pod again. The save wasn't as much that it was maybe the most athletic save of all time or the craziest acrobatic. It was just the anticipation of that puck obviously going in the net, and it just somehow the leg just kicks out, and it was just so cool and fun and good for New Jersey in a season that they're not going to get many big wins to get that shutout against Boston. The biggest news here is, is Marchand going to be back or not? I still don't think we have 100% clarification, so I don't want to assume either way. I kind of feel like I'm siding with him not playing, but I don't know for sure.
We didn't get any indication on Monday that he's off the COVID list, so I'll continue to keep looking, because I'm sort of surprised we didn't get any confirmation from beat writers one way or the other. But I assume if he had been pulled off, they would have told us. So that's something that on Sunday was a game time decision literally on him. So we might have to deal with that again. If Pasta misses, or if Marchand misses, Pasternak should be in. If Marchand misses, we'll see a guy like Trent Frederick or Anders Bjork play on that top line. They both played there on Sunday. Obviously a 1-0 loss. They could switch that up. Maybe we see a guy like Nick Ritchie slide up. We don't know. We're kind of guessing there. But I do think that that's a very, interesting spot to keep in mind, because, Pasta is very expensive. Bergeron's pretty expensive. You might be able to get a cheap third wheel in there who, saves you some money. But I'm looking at this money line, minus 186. Boston has not produced against the Devils all freaking season. And that might be priced in a little bit here, honestly, because, you think New Jersey plus 155 on the road, probably not exactly what you would think. But, the Devils have held them very much in check the few times they've played this year. So, I think that the under is a good bet here at 5.5. I don't see a ton of fireworks here. And maybe this is a spot where I'm just looking to ride that Devils. Maybe Blackwood gets on a run here, because he's not been the same goalie he was last year.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of want to say the under here, but I think I like Pasternak so much in this game. that I'm considering just like not touching that and just focusing more on like a fun game prop around Pasternak, like a 2-point game or even a 2-goal game. But I don't like doing that much. It just feels like it's a really tough bet to make because you're kind of losing so much equity up front on it that it might not be worth it. But Pasternak's probably my favorite play on DraftKings in the night. He's obviously priced accordingly. He's actually eclipsed Ovechkin in the past 10 games for his iCourse per 60 numbers. iCourse 4 per 60. I think I don't know if it really matters either way.
No, but iCourse 4 doesn't really matter. Like it's just iCourse.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I don't know. I'm like, there's no difference. I'm just like looking at the actual stat and it says 4. And I'm like, that doesn't make a difference. Anyways, though, he has been really, really, really good and just not getting rewarded for it. Past 3 games without a goal. I just don't see that trend continuing. I think he gets one. Like he's one of my favorite, bets for a goal, but plus 105, it's like might just get more fun than that. I like his shot prop a ton. I think that, it could be really good. I really like the idea of just going with him, Richie, and Grzelcyk as like a 3-man stack. Get that power play correlation that kind of barring Marchand's out. It's cheap. It's going to be unique. It's a 7-game slate. You don't have to get crazy with it, but that could hook up for a goal for sure. And if you get, Pasternak, let's say Richie scores that goal and then Pasternak scores at 5-on-5 and you get those 3 all correlated in some capacity, grabs like a couple assists, like you could really find a way to get yourself into a very unique lineup build.
Yeah, I think I'm out on Grzelcyk, which might be saying something because I feel like I was sort of like riding, but 5,300 on DraftKings for him just feels like a bit much. So I don't really see too much here, like from a player prop standpoint. Maybe Kyle Palmieri trying to show off for the to audition for the Bruins because the Bruins. It's right about time for them to trade for a second line winger. They do that every year, and Palmieri's probably one of the best options on the market right now. So you could see that he's been showing up lately. So I think he's a decent guy when you're talking shot props and to score a goal maybe. But in general, I think I'm mostly on the under here.
Yeah, I like the under, but I don't think I'm going to bet it. Is kind of my thought, and I like Boston, but I don't think I'm going to bet it either. Like it's just not worth it.
Let's go on over to Washington at the Rangers. This is a rematch of the game on Sunday, which I believe had 10 combined goals. 9. And that's almost misleading because the Capitals were just obliterating the Rangers through 2 periods. And like that third period was just such a turn of fate. I don't know if that means much going into this matchup here, but I'm looking at this as like a pick 'em right now, -108 on the Caps. I just really want to ride that number. I don't really see that the Rangers are like a markedly better team than the Caps, and I'm just willing to believe that these Caps numbers, which are pretty good, like they've actually had pretty good underlying numbers, that they're here to stay. And I just think I like the talent there as well. So. Any thoughts on that and maybe the over-under, which is right now set at 6?
Yeah, I do like the Caps. I think it's very, very fair to take them and like you said, to pick them. They are the better team in this matchup for sure. I think that as far as player props are concerned, I don't mind taking anything with Ovechkin involved. I think that him playing with Kuznetsov really bodes well for them to be, the main reason for saying this is Kuznetsov's on the first power play now. But plus 275 to score, I'm not sure if I have the stomach for it myself, just because like Ovechkin's such the shot taker, and you like put Kuznetsov with him, and Kuznetsov's more likely to set him up. So if you can get a point bet on Kuznetsov that you like, I think it's fair because he's on the first power play now. But more than that, I think it's a very interesting stack: Ovechkin, Kuznetsov, and Carlson. Really expensive, but you're going to be very contrarian against the McDavids and Pasternaks, which I think are going to take up a lot more ownership. Even really Panarin, I think, could get a decent amount into that Ovechkin amount. So I think that it's a really unique 3-man that's not going to be overutilized in a game that I kind of like the over in on the 6. So what are your thoughts on that? And is there any other player that you wanted to get to?
Yeah, no, I really like John Carlson here. You're talking a lot of stud defenders on this, Tuesday night. But John Carlson's been really quietly putting up just really solid like floor numbers in terms of shots and blocks. He's averaging just about 3 shots a game and a shade under 2 blocks per game over his last 10. And with that, he just hasn't had the same points that he had maybe earlier in the season. Let's say, he's going 2 pointless games in a row now. Like he doesn't have those double-digit sort of fantasy performances. Like we're talking like 20 points because he had 3 assists and a few shots on goal and a few blocks. He hasn't really had any of those monster games. But this matchup should be high tempo, should be high scoring. I really think that John Carlson's in line to put up something that we see from, say, Adam Fox, where he put up like 50 against the freaking Flyers. Not necessarily calling that high of a score, but like I do think that there's a lot of ceiling in Carlson that we haven't really seen yet, and he's doing sort of the laying the groundwork, I think, to sort of have one of those massive games. So I think he's my favorite defenseman on the night in general. And if you're talking block shot props, which you can find places, shot on goal props, any of that, I do think that he offers a lot of value as a sort of complement to Ovechkin.
Yeah, no, for sure. Is there anything else in this game? I mean, we didn't really touch too much on the Rangers. I feel like it's kind of obvious with the Rangers. Like, and I, this is something I said in the morning skate pod as well. I keep calling back to it, but there's such a high concentration of minutes with the Rangers. And I think that, enough people at this point in like DFS circles understand game theory. They understand, not kind of riding these hot streaks too much because they fizzle out. And it bumps the price up so much. Like Zibanejad at one point was like 5.5. Now he's like 7, I think. But I do think there's some merit to stacking up with the Rangers because there's such a high concentration of minutes that where they're going to go to. So I think taking Panarin, Strome, and Fox in some capacity, even though their prices are like at their peak, still isn't the worst. Just because it's a 7-game slate, you're not, picking between 14 different teams where this matchup isn't the best. So it's like, what's the point? Like this still could be a game where, like I said, it could go for 9 again. I think that's well within the realm of possibility. So I don't hate it. I don't know if it's going to end up making too many of my lineups, but I do want to try to get a share of it because I think it's going to be like this game's going to get overlooked. Is that fair enough to say?
Maybe. I mean, I kind of feel like people will be chasing the Rangers a little bit.
I just think that having Tampa and Carolina cheaper than Washington and the Rangers is going to drive enough ownership out to those games. I think they're just clearly better matchups. But if you're ready for that, we can get right over to Columbus at Tampa right now if you want to.
Yeah.
Hop on over.
Yeah, we can do that. So Tampa taking on this, listless looking Columbus team, as we just mentioned. Tampa minus 245. Not sure how much you want to make out of 2 games, but watching those 2 games really told me, I think, everything that I needed to know to make my call here. Because it was not just losses to the Red Wings. Like that happens. Sometimes you get goal lead. Sometimes you get bad bounces. Like this was utter domination. So for that reason, maybe Torts gets something together and can fix this, but I don't really see it. We've sort of been riding this. CBJ is terrible all year. So I'm just going to keep that going. Like I like the Tampa puck line here. I obviously like the money line as well, but I do think there's a pretty significant edge there. Like if this Columbus team just refuses to show up and play. So I'm willing to go with Tampa here, but what are your thoughts on that and maybe some particular players that you like from this game?
Yeah, I think if you're taking Tampa, just take the puck line. I agree with that for sure. It's what's the point? I mean, minus 245. I just don't want to put money on that. It just isn't fun. And I don't gamble because I get to make a living. Like I gamble to enjoy and be a part of this community and stuff. Like I don't put money on minus 245. That's just isn't the way I play. I think more interestingly, Tampa Bay, I like them to win by a lot. I think they could put up 5 or 6. I think a more interesting fun bet would be to put some money on Tyler Johnson to score at plus 285, just because he's playing with Point and Palat. We've mentioned a lot that Palat's sort of, at least as of late, and when he's been playing with Point, been the primary shot taker. But Point's kind of cooled off entirely from shooting and really become more of a setup man. I think that, Palat and Johnson have, pretty good chances to score, plus 225 per point, plus what I say, a 285 for Johnson. I think putting money on either of those, or maybe even both. Not obviously you can't do it together, but put some money on both of those. And I really like one of them to find the back of the net. Point's such an elite playmaker. And when he's kind of, cooling off on taking shots himself, is just like, let's get in on both line mates. It's probably my favorite stack of the night as well, that unit, and maybe with Hedman, but I think Carlson's a bit better to play. I think Hedman might be a bit better of a play, like just on face value. So that's what I'm thinking about doing in this game. I think that, like the Tampa scores at least 5, which is why I kind of like the over, but I'm not super keen on it because Columbus could easily get shut out in this matchup. Vasilev's in net. If he is, like, I just won't touch it, but
yeah, we don't really need to talk more about the Tampa guys. I think you covered, what they're going to do or whatever. But we should just mention on this Columbus side, like, like maybe they're not the absolute worst team in the league. They still do literally have a playoff berth that they could fight for theoretically. I don't see it happening, but if they were to, I think a guy like Oliver Bjorkstrand could be the catalyst to, gets things going for them. He has very clearly been their sort of time on ice leader as of late. He's getting, sort of quote unquote promotions into like high leverage offensive roles. And when a guy like Bjorkstrand's the talent, he has the shooting talent, is sort of able to take over a game. Like I do think that Tampa isn't infallible. I think they actually recently overtook the league lead for most time spent penalty killing per game. So a guy like Bjorkstrand, I think you can get a shot prop right about even money. I really like that over. Like, even though they only had 17 shots on Sunday against the Red Wings, Bjorkstrand still put up 3, got a safe little over there. So I still do think I like that, that shot prop, and specifically Oliver Bjorkstrand. It's just the rest of this team get lost. Like, go figure it out. Torch will get fired and try again next year. So,
that's actually a really good point, because they did talk about that on 31 Thoughts, how Tampa's really been taking penalties early to like get penalties late. Like, that's been like kind of the way they're doing it. Like, John Cooper is like clearly taking an aggressive approach, and they're taking the most penalties in the league because referees even it out. Like, that's just the way it goes, right? As has been accented multiple times, and I'm sure anyone listening knows even more about that from the guys on this podcast. It's it really I think if you're betting on, anytime Tampa's playing, if you want to bet on the other team to get a power play point for one of their top guys, especially if it's like a, Ovechkin type of a guy where his power play point prop against them, like it's I think strong enough. There's a good enough chance of that happening that it's worth doing.
I think that's fine.
Like, that's how Tampa's going to play. So until they call it right, that's the way it goes.
So the other sort of half of that weekend series of Columbus, Detroit having 2 pretty strong performances. They're heading into Florida. And what is one of the worst stories of this weekend was the loss of Aaron Ekblad for Florida. But this Florida team also is likely to be without Barkov and likely to be without Patrick Hornqvist. Be sure to check in on Morning Skate there. We didn't get any pure confirmation on the statuses of those 2. But this Florida team is very, very banged up. Detroit, coming off of 2 strong efforts at plus 188 on the road. DJ, can I talk you into a Red Wings money line bet here, or am I just a little too off base here?
Unfortunately, I'm just it's a no for me, dog. But I understand it, and like everything you're saying is correct. But Florida did kind of put it together. They went 4-1 over Dallas last game.
They did
the game before. That was last game. Yeah, and then the game before, Verhaeghe had the hat trick. Right? Am I right? Or was that last game?
Yeah, no, that is true.
Like, they're not bad. Like, even though they're losing guys, like I don't know what it is. Quenville, is it? They're not the Sabres. I don't know. You can convince me of it being anything. They're finding ways to win and get guys that just are producing no matter what. So I'm just not willing to bet on Detroit. I think that's a very smart method. Not betting on Detroit to win is probably working for most people. So yeah, not going to do it here. I don't know if there's any one prop line I like more than anything else. I guess my favorite thing, not my favorite thing. The thing I was hoping for the most was that we were going to see a big influx of minutes for Mr. Keith Yandel. It didn't happen. They lose Ekblad. Ekblad only played 10 minutes before that horrific injury. And again, terrible to see. And Yandel still only saw 15 minutes of ice time. So I'm kind of just fading defensemen in this game. I don't know if there's a ton of value for Florida, just because I don't know if you want to pay up for Hagee without Barkov, and Huberdeau is just like a bit priced out of consideration for me, but I could see why you might do it. I kind of like the under here. I just think it's, really sets up for a 2-0, 2-1 special. And other than that, notes on this game is, with Florida, with all the injuries and everything, their first power play unit without Ekblad, Matt, I know you know it, but we had minimum salary Brett Connolly, who actually got 18 minutes of ice time. He doesn't shoot very much, but
doesn't do very much at all, actually.
No, if you're playing with Huberdeau and on the power play and 18 minutes against Detroit, like I could talk myself into it. So it was Connolly, Huberdeau, Wenberg, Yandel, and Verhaeghe moved up to the top unit. Mm-hmm. I'm very, very hopeful Tippett gets a look there. We kind of talked about it. Ekblad, he's a trigger guy. We've mentioned that a million times. Why not put maybe your best shooter in that spot in Owen Tippett? I think that would make the most sense. Or even Vetrano. Verhaeghe is a good shot, but it's not quite at that elite level.
And he's not a righty.
Yeah, he's not right. Maybe it was just heat of the game, way it was going. Verhaeghe was super hot. They just thought put him on the power play, but yeah, we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, no, that's that's really sort of my problem. It's like Tippett does the same thing that Ekblad does, just on the second unit. Why not just slide him up? But coaches aren't logical like that, I guess. So, it is what it is, and we have to deal with it. I really don't think I'm in on this version of the Florida Panthers. I think that Barkov is far too important. They won, they won a game against the Stars or whatever, but they did get pretty heavily outshot in both those contests. Part of that could be score effects and yada, yada, but it's not like they dominated play. And I just don't really want to lay the odds on them, minus 230 to win. No. And I just don't think I want to lay the odds on any of their players. I don't trust Huberdeau. I probably never will at this point, but actually the last show we did on Thursday, I'm pretty sure I was like Carter Verhaeghe, no point, easy money. And it hit. It was like super easy money, hit. And then of course the weekend comes and he picks up a freaking hat trick. But he hurt us just a little bit late. I think you can go back to that if they offer that line again. Just it's probably going to be way better now. Like Carter Verhaeghe, no point. I just don't see it with this team. I don't see them sort of generating the number of offensive chances that they would with Barkov in. So I'm just either staying away or riding some of these Detroit guys. On the Detroit side, Anthony Mantha. Maybe it's Mantha time again. I swore him off for good a month ago because he burned me so bad.
Always come back.
He was my prize pick. He was everything else. Just burned me. I ruled him out. But then I watched this weekend and it's like, oh, that Mantha guy, he's actually pretty good. Larkin's not even on the top power play unit. It's Anthony Mantha's season. So I don't know. I'm playing 4K Mantha.
You can just lock in Mantha for no points. You can actually lock him in to get benched now. Thanks, Matt, for ruining Anthony Mantha once again. I don't know. Honestly, I like the idea of just not putting this game in parlay too. But if I was going to do it, I just might just do the under. Honestly, just take the under and move on. Other than that, I think the one kind of odd goal prop is Zadina, but it's only plus 375. I don't think it's quite as ridiculous. I don't know. It seems like all these props are just right in the middle. It's some guy's going to score, but we don't know who. It's
my favorite, Ratko Gudas, 14 to 1. I don't know. Without Ekblad, they need someone to do the shooting.
He's going to see minutes.
Gudas is out. He will be out there with the empty net.
What is his blocks prop?
Oh, it's probably too low. Yeah, he's good. He's a good DFS play. Yeah. I'm good with him. Obviously, pretty facetious betting him in any sort of gold prop or anything. But DFS, I think you got to consider him just with the vacuum of minutes that Ekblad opens up. So let's move on from that game though, because we've spent a lot of time.
We hate this game. Don't play it. And they were let's go for 20 minutes.
So this game is pretty fun though. Carolina at Chicago. Carolina minus 155 road favorite. Coming off of a Marty Necas night. Necas single-handedly took down the Lightning. Now he heads into Chicago. How do you feel about this one? Any interest in the home dog Hawks or maybe the over-under? It's currently set at 5.5.
I think I like
seems
the
like
over.
a jam.
I like the over slightly more than just taking Carolina at minus 155. Like I take shot props at minus 155 all the time, thinking like this is about my. You don't want to go too much over this. Carolina to win this game. I mean, come on. Like Chicago just gets so much respect from Vegas, and there's just such a middling, like average team. No. I'm taking Carolina. I'm taking the over. It seems pretty easy. We're getting my boy back, Vinny Trocheck, super high on him all year. Remember when we used to get him at like plus 310 to score?
I do.
He comes back at plus 155. I still think it's worth it. Him and Svechnikov, though, just in general together again, it feels so good. First power play. I love the idea of getting a first power play stack with them.
No, that's not true. That's not true. We talked about this, DJ. Marty Necas is still on that top power play. They confirmed that, which is why they did. Yeah, that's why it's the Marty party time, baby. DraftKings left this guy
just
at
47 install. Like, why are we doing this?
I don't know why we're doing this. You're totally right. You
put in Trocheck. I don't care what anyone says. I'm playing Trocheck and Svechnikov. Like that's happening.
So absolutely. I think that, so, I mean, let's talk about this from like the DFS standpoint of things, because people are going to flood the aisles to be playing, Aho, Necas, and Nino Niederreiter confirmed top line. But, you're looking at Trocheck, Svechnikov at 5,600. Like, he's not done anything, but he's still their main shooter. Like, he's just missing a ton of nets and not scoring goals, but he'll do that.
I think Svechnikov enough. He's definitely going to score.
That's right. We'll just Martingale until he does.
Just every game, we're like, over on the shots and a goal.
Yeah,
two games in a row, Svechnikov doesn't go over. I'm baffled.
So sorry, let me just finish that thought there, because Svechnikov and Trocheck, like, while Trocheck might be a little overpriced for the lack of roll or whatever, you throw in Jesper Fast there, and you say, oh well, Svechnikov takes a bunch of shots in the first power play, they don't score. Second power play over the boards, Trocheck, Jesper Fast. Jesper Fast is 2.5K. He lets you spend up for those big boys, like McDavid and, Pasternak and Ovechkin, without, needing to do a whole lot. And he correlates really well with those two guys. Like Jesper Fast is a really good player, obviously super cheap, and he and Trocheck could combine on that second power play goal that you need. So, I don't hate the idea, but I do think that the party Marty time is only begun. Like 4,700, like, I'm taking out second mortgages on houses I don't own to just jam in Necas, because he's so good, man. He's so good.
Second leases on the apartment.
Yes, I'm subletting my own bedroom and sleeping on the streets.
All right. Marty party in the streets. I like it. Yeah. Is there anything on the Chicago side you want to get to? I mean, I feel like we should just completely ignore it, but
yeah, I mean, the huge news of the weekend, Kirby Dach. Like, this game is fun, man. Like Kirby Dach is sub 3K.
Dach, really, really cheap. So that it was Janmark, Dach, and Kane. DeBrincat played with Suter and Kershaw, but
Kane plays with every
So so it's the Kane assisted on one of DeBrincat's goals, right?
Yes, one of them.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you play Kane, play him with whoever, but Kane and DeBrincat are really expensive against Carolina. That's kind of hard to talk me into.
Agreed.
Yeah, no, it's going to be. This game is a lot of fun. The over is real strong in my eyes. Like maybe one of the best bets of the night. So if you get 5.5, I think you just you put the money right there.
Yep, I definitely do agree with that. I even think that you could bet a guy like Necas at plus 3 or 220, 235 anytime goal. Like I just really want to ride the wave, because I was worried about his shots on goal. Like they were low. And in the last 5-6 games, he's been firing. So I am, very willing to take bets, take chances on guys who just profile as such skilled, like high talent level guys, figuring out that like, hey, you need to shoot the score in the league, and sort of figuring that out as they go. Like we saw Mitch Marner do that this year, and his fantasy values skyrocketed. So maybe Necas is sort of the same deal, in one of the best spots that you could imagine, I think, in what should be a high scoring game. So over, jam it. Let's get to the last game of the night.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is a really fun game because like we have two teams like in Dallas that are trying to fight for a playoff spot. In Nashville's, I feel like the consistent, like, can they sneak back in? Like, who knows? Probably not. But it's two teams that have definitely underperformed in the season, but we get them at basically a pick 'em. I really couldn't tell you. I want to say Dallas. I think that's where everything's kind of leads to. As long as they're in somewhat of good health, I doubt we get Radulov, but Hintz has been in for a few games in a row. That Hintz, Pavelski, Robertson, Heiskanen, put it all together 5-on-5 in a power play. I could see it, but I kind of like the under here, which is why I'm probably not going to have too much game stacks going on. But what do you think? Where is your head at? Are you thinking that any interest in the over here, or one of the sides? Like I said, I think I like Dallas.
Yeah,
on the under.
I don't think I want to bet either over under here. And if I were to bet a side, I do think I would go with this Nashville side. It's tough not knowing the status of Philip Forsberg to really make that sort of call, because I do think he's just a really, 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 really good player. But if we're following the Rupe Hintz, every other game type thing, he played last game, so maybe he sits out this one. So you might get a small edge there. There's just so much uncertainty with the Stars team, and Nashville is feeling themselves, like they're coming in. I think they've won 6 in a row, maybe. They're back from the dead, Columbus certainly isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Chicago seems, Nashville took 2 games off Chicago. So Nashville has a very clear shot to making the playoffs and, probably just losing to Tampa, but this team has everything to play for right now, and they do seem to be pretty good. Again, their power play actually doing stuff is such a game breaker for Nashville. So I do like that. But yeah, I don't know anything specifically. I think I would side with Nashville, but anything specific you wanted to talk about?
No, I mean, I think that it's a good toss up. Like I said, I think I'm slightly leaning Dallas. And that might just be because I think that Hint is going to maybe play, but it's so hard to know. And
when he plays, he looks so good, and that's
he looks so good. And that's the thing. It's this top unit. I really like the idea of Pavelski, Hintz, Robertson, and the defense has been so good. I mean, Miro had 7 shots on goal last game. But you're right. There's so much uncertainty in this game that it's going to be hard for me to put a lot of, I don't think we'll know on Hintz. Obviously, we won't know on Hintz. I doubt we know on Forsberg until puck drop. So with all that uncertainty, I'm probably just not going to stay away I am going to stay away from the money line and the over under. Just, if you have that much talent missing from the game, that's going to really drive home the under. But if they're in, it could definitely change it on a last second basis. So I think I'm a little more interested in some props here. I want to. If you can find the Heiskanen, over on the shots, be my guest, because he has been shooting an unbelievable amount as of late. The one thing is Roman Josi minutes haven't quite been there yet, which is why at the top of the defense, I'm just not really that interested in playing him. He was, seeing almost 25, 26, 27 minutes before the injury. I expect under around 20. Last game he did have the breakout 22-point DraftKings night, but I'm not sure I'm willing to put much, just on an individual basis bet on him in a prop. I'm more interested in Arvidsson if you can get him, especially if Forsberg's out.
Yeah, absolutely. If Forsberg's out, Arvidsson does sort of need to step up in that case. I think you'll get a pretty good number on Arvidsson. So even, Arvidsson's not really a power play guy. So if you like the power play, maybe go Tolvanen, but Arvidsson is just a guy who's firing pucks from everywhere most of the time. So I really do think that he makes for a really nice play here if you like the Nashville side over Dallas, which I think I do. But, definitely a lot of late news to keep in mind as we do that. So anything else here before we get to some of our recapping our favorite bets and some DFS stacks we should mention?
No, I think we just get to our favorite bets. This game isn't one of the more exciting ones, so I think I'll kick it off. Carolina, Chicago over.
I
put it in the book.
Yeah, I like that. All right, I will go with the Edmonton Montreal game, and I'm trying to figure out where to go with that, because I think there's a lot of bets that I like on their face. But let's get crazy. Let's do the one that I sort of was referring to. Edmonton at one point in this game will be trailing, but don't worry, Edmonton will pull it off. They'll get the dub. Plus 410 on that number. Like again, I'm just rooting so hard for overtime here because that I think will be the perfect game script for my DFS lineups to hit with McDavid and those Montreal guys, and for this bet to hit. Like it does seem like a perfect storm here. Could be brewing.
Yeah, I think my next I like the Tampa puck line right now. It's minus 1.5 plus what 108. Yeah. Wait, I'm reading that wrong, I think. Let me get into it here. You know what? Honestly, maybe I don't know. I don't know if I want to do a correct score. I feel like I hate those bets. But the Tampa puck line, whatever it ends up being.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. Detroit money line. We're in. We're in.
I'm not.
We're in.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Player props.
Too late.
Couple player props. I guess we should probably do a couple quick. Tampa, I really hope I could get a Palat one shots. I'm not sure if we're going on DraftKings, but we'll get over on FanDuel, I'm sure. If it's 2.5, I take the over on that all day.
Yeah. Let's do a Leon. Draisaitl.
He's been shooting a good amount.
He has been, and he's cooled off a little bit as of late, but it's still that same role. With McDavid, with Puljujärvi, and I think that the power plays, will come. They just haven't really been there the last few games for Edmonton, and sometimes that's just random. I don't really read too much into it, so I do think that they're in line to have a night where it's like, oh yeah, that's why you pay $9K for these Oilers, because their power play is so condensed and just so good that I think Leon Draisaitl, his shot prop will just be too low. So I'm willing to take a stance on that one.
All right. With all that being said, you want to get over to our favorite stacks of the night?
Yeah, let's do that. So I will lead that one off with the Ovechkin Kuznetsov stack. You could play Daniel Sprong with it. I don't see that being too strong. TJ Oshie should go from third line center to second line wing, that sort of flip flop. But Kuznetsov back on that top power play, to me, just really unlocks a lot. So getting Ovechkin, getting John Carlson, I just really like Kuznetsov as a player, and I'm happy to jump on even if he's 5,200 because I'm just I'm really, really in on his talent level and what he's shown the last few games.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tampa 1 is just too good to pass up. It's just not priced correctly. I don't think 6,200 point, 6,100 Palat, and then super cheap 3,300 Tyler Johnson. They get a couple goals 5-on-5, and all three are involved, and you're in a really good spot. And I think you could still get exposure to that Edmonton Montreal game. I'm not sure if McDavid's going to fit perfectly in there. I'm going to probably try it, but yeah, that could definitely work.
Yeah, I mean, just a couple, because it's not really a big deal which one you pick, honestly. But both of those Montreal lines, I think, are just fantastic values. They will let you fit in, these upper priced studs. I think I'm leaning toward Gallagher, Tatar, and Deneau. Yeah. But you could absolutely go Suzuki, Anderson, and Juin. Like, they're just both so cheap. That this Edmonton team can give up goals in bunches. I just think there's a lot to like there at their respective prices, which are just too low, frankly, across the industry.
Yeah, definitely. Is there anything else we should get to? We should definitely, I think, just mention FTN.
Couple goalies. Let's do a couple goalies first.
A couple goalies first, and then I'll let you. I mean, like I said, I like the under in the Dallas-Nashville game. So depending on who starts, I could get talked into either. Saros, they have listed as a day-to-day. Is that a thing? Maybe I'm losing my mind. He didn't suit up Sunday, but I didn't think that was.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't even back up. It was Casiscuo. I don't even know. I feel like DJ trying to pronounce that name. But yeah, it was their third stringer pressing. Yeah. So
they traded from. He was on the Maple Leafs. They traded for him.
Sure.
Yeah, so I guess especially if Rene's in net, then I really like the Khudobin, Ottinger, either one of them. I mean, I know
you're where I'm going with this. 6,900. We're riding the wave on Calvin Pickard.
God.
He plays back-to-back games against Columbus, and
I knew you were going to do it.
Only
too,
only sees 39 shots across 2 games, but he's
all I got to say is
of them.
If you played Elvis over Picard, that's probably crazy. That's crazy right there. So like at the bottom, I got to give it to you. That's not the worst thing in the world. Other than that, I mean, I think if you're spending up, I probably prefer Nedeljkovic Reimer at the top. I don't see a real good reason to play one of the Florida guys or the Tampa guys, just because I don't think they're going to quite see the shots that they'll need. And I think Halak is just pretty broken. So I think that like at the top, like he's actually been okay. Like it's funny because I feel like every time I've played him, he's been terrible, but he's actually not been bad. So it's playable. But I think at the top, you just want to take the guy with the best chance to break the slate. And I think that's a Carolina goalie, get the shutout.
All right. So, I mean, I think that'll just about do it. That was what we had here. DJ, what are you rocking today? You're rocking the Minnesota Twins, right?
Baseball.
Yeah. DJ's a Twins guy, believe it or not. Growing up in Rochester, just fell in love with the Twins.
And the Twins were together. And I don't like winning playoff games. And I've done great at picking teams that don't win playoff games.
The Sabres.
The stupid Browns had to ruin it this year by winning the first one in my lifetime. But
so baseball is coming up on first pitch is on Thursday, the 1st. So there was something that I found really interesting. If you guys haven't listened to it yet, I believe it's on the PME feed. It's not on the Mayo Media Network feed. It could be. I'm honestly not sure how that works, but it was on Pat Mayo's main feed where he had some guys on from FTN. Basically going over their baseball optimizer and sort of talking about like the different packages that you could sign up for at FTN or whatever. When you do that, just make sure you use promo code Mayo when you sign up. But I did find that if you are interested in baseball and sort of getting like a refresher on not only like, what do I look for, whatever, but like actually, what are these tools? How do I use them? Even if they're not FTN specific. They did have a lot of good tips about just like how to use an optimizer, to set up lineups in the best ways. Because frankly, it's not just push button, print money. Like we all wish they were, but that's just not how it works. So I did find that one really interesting. It's worth a listen, I think, if you are looking for something, to get ready for the baseball season. Be sure to check that one out over on the PME feed. So I think that's it. Big thanks to Prize Picks for sponsoring this show. Use promo code MMN when you sign up over there. DJ, anything you want to say before we head out?
Don't bet on the Sabres.
And I'm sure we'll be sitting here on Thursday telling you don't bet on the Red Wings. But, all right. Thank you all. For me. Yeah, thank you all for listening. We'll talk on Thursday.